It's time for Twig. This week in Google, Gina, Jeff, and I will talk about, well, it is Steve Jobs' biography, but there's a lot to say about Google in here. Jobs didn't really like Android. The details coming up next with This Week in Google.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 118, recorded October 26th, 2011, The Love Point. This Week in Google is brought to you by Gotomeeting. Today's mobile world makes easy-to-use collaboration software more than nice to have. It's a necessity. For your free 30-day trial, visit Gotomeeting.com and use the offer code TWIG. And by Ford, featuring Wi-Fi connectivity with available sync and My Ford Touch. Now your car can be a Wi-Fi hotspot. Check it out in the new 2012 Ford Focus and at Ford.com/technology. And by Vast Conference, the ultimate in professionalism, clarity, and flexibility for your conference calls, all at a low price. For 2 free Vast conference calls with no commitment, go to vastconference.com and use the offer code TWIG. It's time for security now. It's because I'm wearing the shirt.
Because you're wearing the shirt.
It's time for This Week in Google. Let me press my orange button here that starts the show. All right, the show is... They've given me a foot pedal. It's just to make me feel better. I'm actually the Steve Jobs of This Week in Google. Leo Laporte here. Jeff Jarvis on my right from the City University of New York. And BuzzMachine.com, our great friends. I just love our panel here. Gina Trapani is also here from, of course, smarterware.org and thinkupapp.com. I look forward, as you do, I know, guys, every Wednesday just to getting together, talking. That's why I wore my Chipotle police outfit today.
It's our rap session. It's our weekly rap.
It is. It's really fun. And we actually invited Dan Patterson from CBS to join us. CBS Radio News, he couldn't join us. Then we asked Matt Cutts. He's giving Larry Lessig a tour of Google. So it's just the three of us, just the cadre today. But have you been reading?
Oh, I've been sucked into that book for the past 3 days.
It's a long book, over 600 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about 400 pages in, but apparently I didn't get to the juiciest stuff yet.
Well, the Android stuff. That's why I brought it in today to talk about this. And some of this you've already seen, but then there's stuff that it wasn't quoted in the newspaper. Jobs had tried to dissuade Google from developing Android. He'd gone to Google's headquarters near Palo Alto in 2008 and got into a shouting match. This is Walter Isaacson writing, with Paige Brin and the head of the Android development team, Andy Rubin. Because Eric Schmidt, the CEO, was on the board of Apple, he recused himself from discussions involving iPhone. It says Jobs felt personally betrayed by Eric Schmidt because he'd been on the Apple board during the development of the iPhone and iPad, and he felt that perhaps Android's touchscreen interface was adopting more and more of the features, multi-touch, swiping, a grid of app icons that Apple, he says, had created. I said, this is quoting Steve Jobs now. Remember, he had 40 interviews with Steve Jobs, and these are all coming from those tapes. Quote, I said, if we had good relations, guarantee Google access to the iPhone, guarantee it 1 or 2 icons on the home screen, Jobs recalled. But he also threatened that if Google continued to develop, this is what Jobs does throughout this book, carrot and stick, right? He says, I'll give you something or I'm going to threaten you. But he also threatened if Google continued to develop Android and used any iPhone features such as multi-touch, he would sue. Apple has a patent on multi-touch, which was thrown out later. At first, Google avoided copying certain features, but in January 2010, HTC introduced an Android phone that boasted multi-touch. Remember that? In the first iteration of the G1, no multi-touch.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's why. Now we know why. I mean, that's what's great about this. It fills in the gaps to the stuff that we knew was happening. We didn't know why it was happening. And many other aspects of the iPhone's look and feel. This was the context for Jobs' pronouncement that Google's "Don't Be Evil" slogan was BS. Remember, he said that to an all-hands meeting at Apple. So Apple sues HTC and, by extension, Android, alleging infringement of 20 of its patents. Among them were patents covering various multi-touch gestures, swipe to open, double tap to zoom, pinch and expand, and the sensors that determined how a device was being held. As he sat in his house in Palo Alto the week the lawsuit was filed, he became angrier than I had ever seen him.
Ooh.
The quote, "Our lawsuit is saying, Google, you effing ripped off the iPhone. Wholesale ripped us off. Grand theft. I will spend my last dying breath if I need to, and I will spend every penny of Apple's $40 billion in the bank to right this wrong. I am going to destroy Android because it's a stolen product. I'm willing to go thermonuclear war on this. They are scared to death because they know they are guilty. Outside of search, Google's products, Android, Google Docs are," and he uses another strong word, I'll just say crap. A few days after this rant, Jobs got a call from Schmidt, who had resigned from the Apple board the previous summer. He suggested they get together for coffee, and they met at a cafe in a Palo Alto shopping center. Again,
Is that the
that was the
meeting?
picture.
that was the meeting. We saw these
It really
pictures.
was an important meeting.
And we
Yes.
speculated, what could they be talking about?
Yes.
We thought it was funny. Thought they were gaming the press.
Oh, baby.
They were doing it in a public place to be safe from.
So they wouldn't beat each other up? I don't know. Here's the quote from Jobs. "We spent half the time talking about personal matters. Then, oh, actually, this is Eric Schmidt. Because remember, Isaac said, I have to say, this book is very even-handed. It is not hagiography. He really is warts and all. And he talked to 100 other people besides Jobs, including Eric Schmidt. Schmidt says, we spent half the time talking about personal matters and half the time on his perception that Google had stolen Apple's user interface designs. When it came to the latter subject, Jobs did most of the talking. Google had ripped him off, he said in colorful language. We got you red-handed, he told Schmidt. I'm not interested in settling. I don't want your money. If you offer me $5 billion, I won't want it. I've got plenty of money. I want you to stop using our ideas in Android. That's all I want."
It's so ironic, given the beginning of the book, where you get the whole story about how the Apple team have visited Xerox PARC and seen the GUI interface that they were developing there, and kind of, went straight back to Apple and built their operating system to work that way. Yeah, and when you think about it, the touchscreen interface is very much an extension of the point-and-click GUI interface, right? You just use your fingers.
Well, and Apple does not own multi-touch. We saw a demo. Remember that TED demo from Carnegie Mellon years before this? Apple doesn't own multi-touch.
Right. So I just find this so amusing. I mean, the shouting matches and the tears, there's many of them throughout the book, and it makes for a great read. I mean, because he was such an intense character. But it just seems so crazy that he was that, and on one hand, he would just say everything else is crap. Apple makes beautiful products and everything else is crap. But on the other, he's so threatened by Google doing Android that he, kind of freaks out and has this total meltdown about it.
He, very famously, it's quoted in this book as well, told the Macintosh team, he quoted Picasso. He said, "Good artists copy, great artists steal."
Great artists steal. Exactly.
I mean, he said that.
He did.
But you know what? This is Steve Jobs. Consistency is not his middle name. He made no attempt to be consistent. This is part of the reality distortion field. Whatever he felt like, that's what he said. This is how it is.
Yeah.
And, you can't even be surprised by it, really. I mean, it's just, this is Steve. This is what made him what he was.
Yep.
Schmidt continues, Steve has a particular way he wants to run Apple, and it's the same as it was 20 years ago, which is that Apple is a brilliant innovator of closed systems. Gates said the same thing about him early on. They don't want people to be on their platform without permission. In fact, there's an anecdote at the beginning, Gina, you've read this already, where Wozniak wants in the Apple II to have slots, 8 slots.
Yes.
And Jobs
that's
says,
a great
no,
story.
Can't have slots. People will modify it. And Woz says, well, but that's what we do. That's what hackers do. We want to modify it. Jobs says, there will be 2 slots, one for video, one for a keyboard or something.
It was like a printer and something else.
And a monitor, and that's it. And they had a fight. Woz won this one, but it says in the book, Woz knew this was the last time he'd win.
The last time that he'd went. Yeah, Woz is such a great character through the book.
He is
like
really.
He's just, he's honest and he's straightforward and he's an engineer and he has such a deep conscience and he forgives Jobs for being a jerk in so many different ways because he admires his leadership and Woz recognizes that Jobs has skills that he doesn't have, which is interesting because Jobs isn't so great at giving credit, right? I mean, throughout the book, every great idea, he talks about as if it were his own.
Well, even
though
Johnny Ive, the great designer, complains about that, and he's very complimentary of Jobs, but he says, but, it kind of would rankle me because he'd take credit for everything.
So what do you each think of him as a person now that you're
wait a minute. Let me finish this, and then we'll talk about that. So Schmidt says, They don't want people to be on their platform without permission. The benefits of a closed platform is control. But Google has a specific belief that open is the better approach because it leads to more options and competition than consumer choice. Bill Gates, responding to this battle against Google as Jobs had battled Microsoft. Remember, Jobs Apple sued Microsoft for the trash can. Bill Gates says there's some benefits to being more closed in terms of how much you control the experience. And certainly at times he's had the benefit of that. But refusing to license the Apple OS gave competitors like Android the chance to gain greater volume. This is Jobs. Google says we exert more control than they do. That we are closed and they are open. This is Jobs talking to Isaacson when Isaacson told him what Schmidt just, I read that quote that I just gave you. Well, look at the results. Android is a mess. It has different screen sizes and versions, over 100 permutations. Even if Google's approach might eventually win in the marketplace, Jobs found it repellent. Quote, I like being responsible for the whole user experience. We do it not to make money. We do it because we want to make great products, not crap like Android. Wow. Wow. I mean, this is one of those tell-all biographies. It's kind of like every page is like, oh, that's what was going on.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me to read. I mean, that emphasis on having that you call it the whole widget experience, owning everything, the hardware, the software, the device, and everything. It always annoyed me. I mean, Jobs sort of infuriated me in life, but now in death, I'm sort of it's interesting, hearing about how that came about. The book makes the point that iTunes or that digital music couldn't have changed the way that it did if Apple hadn't had control of the entire experience, from the Mac to iTunes to the iPod. And so you really kind of see the advantage there, right? I mean, I remember I had a PC when I got my first iPod, and I was using the crappy music match software before iTunes had ported to Windows. It was horrible, horrible. And it was definitely the iPod was sort of my Mac gateway. I was like, I would maybe like to get a Mac, and this iTunes is interesting.
Richard Stallman, in a very controversial statement right at the day that Jobs died, says iPhone made jail cool.
Yeah, well, Stallman, he just doesn't know how to.
He's not
lack of social skills.
Typical geek.
I mean,
He just no social trees. No social.
But if Jobs did believe that copying was the art and understood that, then it strikes me that maybe he wasn't mad about Android copying him. It was that he was mad that Android really would one-up him, that he made this space, he made this thing. His ego was invested in this, and Android's model is a better model for growth. I'm not saying the product is better, but for growth and for taking over much of the market, he was going to make this thing happen and then lose a chunk of it right away.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if he worried about what happened with Windows happening again, right? So like the Mac sort of stagnated and Windows ran on all these different computers, and it took over while Apple was, sleeping. And this is happening during a time, and Steve knew he didn't have much time left. And I wonder about that, if that's the concern.
Jobs, for all of his. So now to answer your question, Jeff, for all of his introspection and his Buddhist beliefs and his. In fact, one of his early girlfriends said Steve was both enlightened and the biggest jerk ever, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but I don't think he was actually very introspective. I think he knew that he was a character, but he didn't really look at these inconsistencies at all. It didn't bother him. He didn't even examine them. It was just, hey, this is what I want. This is how I feel. I'm going to do it. He believed in intuition, not rationality. He says that in the book many times, and this is just an example of that, where he doesn't have to be consistent. I can steal from them, but they better not steal from me. And he doesn't see it as being a problem. And it's perhaps part of why he was great. They asked, The Guardian asked Hugo Barra. Hugo hadn't read the book, so they quoted this statement that Jobs said Android was stolen, I'm going to kill it. Barra said, he said that? And then The Guardian said, well, isn't iOS 5, isn't Android ice cream sandwich stealing from iOS 5? Mr. Barra said, I'm not going to get into this. He didn't want to go there. So there's been no direct Google response to this. I think it's just what we always knew. It just, in some ways, this kind of confirms everything we've said all along.
Yeah.
But what he really and there's another sentence in here. I'm not going to try to find it, but in which he talks about how horrible companies like IBM are. These companies that want to chain you up. He believed himself to be the counterculture hero, the rebel, right? The square peg in the round hole, and yet of course he's making the most closed system of all.
It's my round hole.
It's my round hole. And he put Google in there with the evil companies. He said Microsoft, IBM, and Google. I'll see if I can find the.
Well, but also interesting. The story on the rundown is Larry Page going to Jobs for advice when he got the CEO role, and friendly enough to give it to him. And I loved in that what Jobs basically warned against by having too much stuff going on, you're going to turn into Microsoft.
Right. Well, that's good advice.
It is. It was very good advice. And I think it's why we're seeing, that he really did have a role, Jobs did, and even Google's reorganization.
Yeah.
He was beloved and respected in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
He was.
At the same
There's
time
a similar
as he was
story, not in the book, but the Nike new CEO of Nike had a chance to talk to Jobs and said, "Do you have any advice for me?" And Jobs said something like, Nike makes a lot of beautiful products and it makes a lot of crap. Stop making the crap.
I wish it were that easy.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like that was sort of his advice to Page as well.
Just do the good stuff. Here's the quote. Once IBM gains control of a market sector, they almost always stop innovation. Even 30 years later, reflecting back on the competition, Jobs cast it as a holy crusade. IBM was essentially Microsoft at its worst. They were not a force for innovation. They were a force for evil. They were like AT&T or Microsoft or Google. A force for evil.
Yeah, there's no gray, right? Like you're either a hero or a bozo. There's this very dualistic view of the world, right? Like you're either awesome or you're horrible.
So what companies were there any companies he thought were awesome?
One of his heroes was Edwin Land of Polaroid.
Yeah, right.
But Land, like Jobs, was forced out of his company.
Yeah, and Hewlett-Packard early on.
Yeah, he built Hewlett a lot. In fact, there's a story of him calling Bill Hewlett at home saying, "Can I get some chips?"
Well, and getting a job on the line and pissing off the employees there because he was this kid with chutzpah.
Right, a lot of chutzpah and body odor apparently.
Yeah.
Yes.
He believed because he was on a fruitarian diet. He only ate fruit. He believed that he needed to bathe only once a week, and that he would smell like an apple. And apparently nobody else felt that way. In fact, when he worked at Atari, they made him work the overnights because nobody could stand next to him.
Yeah, you really had to, when they talked about his charisma, you really had to believe that the charisma was really strong, or else no one would put up with him otherwise.
Yeah, there was something, wasn't there? You're right. And I think that's true. He mesmerized. I guess I didn't mean to get in a Steve Jobs conversation. I just wanted to quote the stuff from Google here, but I think it is interesting. And I have to say this: one of my sources of sadness is that I won't get to ever see a Steve Jobs product intro ever again because from day one, they were the best.
Yeah.
Can you name a nice genius?
No.
Besides Leo?
No, I'm not a genius. If I were a bit more of a dick, I'd be a genius. I can't bring myself to that nth degree of.
Do you think it's a requirement, Jeff?
Well, that's what I don't. No, in theory, I don't.
Einstein, there's a nice genius. He was a very nice little guy, although his personal life was a wreck.
Yeah.
Was a genius, but nice. But I don't think you mean genius. I think you mean great man.
Well, great success. Right? It's the Wagner problem.
Yeah. I mean, there are nice people who are geniuses, but they don't necessarily go down in history as great men or women.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've been thinking about this book, reading this book. It's been interesting. It's like I realized that I just value kindness or people too much and objects not enough.
Right.
And I realize it's not kind. I don't value just kindness. I don't think people should be polite just for the sake of being polite. I think I just value diplomacy. And it just seemed like Jobs used people.
He did.
To get what he wanted.
He was a salesman.
He was.
A brilliant salesman.
and that just sort of left a little bit of a.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I'd rather be John Lasseter or be Steve Wozniak. Both these guys are geniuses, right? Creative geniuses, engineering for Woz and art for Lasseter. But neither one of them had the. Both of them have done amazing things, right? But
it was because Steve Jobs was there to take their work and say, push it forward. Lasseter needed Jobs. Woz needed Jobs. Both acknowledge that.
Exactly. One point in the book, they talk about how the tone at Pixar, that Jobs would go to Pixar to kind of relax because at Apple, things were always tense and people were scrambling around and it was just a lot of stress. And that was sort of because of Jobs. And that Lasseter is just kind of like this joyful artsy kind of guy.
I know John. He is. He's jolly. He's sweet. Amazing. He's funny. He has the world's best train set, which is actually a full-size train. He built a water park and a train in his new house.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
He's a kid.
Surprise me that at Pixar things were, they make great products. Pixar makes amazing movies, but the tone wasn't the stress and the kind of meanness and cutting that was going on at Apple. And the leader sets the tone for what happens at a company.
Well,
I admire Lasseter for that more.
You'll get to the Toy Story story, which is very interesting because they did it with Disney, and Jeffrey Katzenberg apparently was exactly like Jobs, micromanaging. Evil, creepy, and demanding, excellence. So apparently Lasseter kept bringing the Toy Story to Katzenberg, who said, give it more edge. Woody's too nice. And they made the first half of the movie, and the toys were like, you hated them. Woody would push people off the bed.
They ruined Toy Story, right?
He told the Slinky, he said, you're just a spring wiener. Get out of here. And he pushed him off. And what's interesting is Jobs did not in any way intervene in Toy Story. He just sat back, let Katzenberg screw it up, and finally Katzenberg backed off, and they made the real Toy Story, not the one that they were going to make. Thank God.
Because he saw Lasseter's genius and gave him the reins to make those decisions. He trusted him, right, to get out of his way, and that was that was smart.
Edison was a dick.
Yes.
Famously, he killed an elephant.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought that was the GoDaddy guy.
The GoDaddy guy is also a dick. So there we go. I rest my case.
And shot an elephant.
The thing
Richard Feynman was nice. He was good on the bongos.
That's true. After watching the 60 Minutes last week, it really struck me that I wish they would release the Jobs tapes.
I do too, and maybe they will. There's some hope. It was clear that Isaacson was able to get those played.
Yes.
It was really great to hear those. Wow.
It really was, because it really adds in a lot. There's that strength to his voice, even when he's sick, right? There's this determination that you hear in him, this sense that I'm right and I know it, and here's what I'm saying, and an honesty, a bluntness too in his distortion field within that, that just was really something to hear.
And you can hear emphasis that you can't necessarily hear in the book. Like I watched that 60 Minutes, and then I read the book, and certain quotes I heard differently because I had watched 60 Minutes. So I hope they release those tapes.
That's really a good point. Jeff, do what you can.
I'll tweet it right now.
You have an in at Simon & Schuster. Don't you have an
yeah. Oh, well, I'm nothing. I'm nothing.
Come on. You got people there, don't you? It's true, though. They didn't get you a 60 Minutes interview, did they?
They sure as hell did.
Yeah. By the way, everybody's frozen. Public parts, and so I'll just do this. I'll do a commercial. Too. You are too. Everybody's frozen except me. I'm still animated, and we're going to take a break as we get everybody back on the line and talk a little bit about the folks at Gotomeeting, the world's finest meeting software. And now, by the way, it works. First of all, you set up a meeting on your Mac or your PC, but people can attend your meeting, not just on the iPad, but now on any Android phone or tablet. Is that awesome? And the iPhone, too. So you can be anywhere and attend a Gotomeeting meeting. Gotomeeting is online meeting software that is just absolutely fantastic. I just was on a Gotomeeting yesterday, and you should see the camera quality that they get with this. They have the new HD faces built in, so you have screen sharing, which has always been, but you also have now the camera on there. And we're talking with Brian. I don't remember where he was. It doesn't matter. You're seeing brilliant video. He sees us. It is just the right way to communicate, and you could and crystal clear, high def. This is the new HD Faces feature on Gotomeeting. So hold a meeting on a Mac or a PC. Attend a meeting on a Mac, PC, Android, iPhone, or iPad. It is awesome. I want you to try it free for 30 days. Don't have another meeting without Gotomeeting in your back pocket. I'm telling you, this changes your life. Built in, by the way, teleconferencing, voice over IP, all of that stuff. Visit gotomeeting.com, and when you click the try here, and I'll show you. You click the orange try it free button. Close that box. It's under there. And somewhere. I'm using this new Chrome. We got to talk about Chrome 15. Anyway, gotomeeting.com, click the try it free button, use the offer code TWIG. I love it. We love it. We use it religiously. We eat our own dog food, as they say, although I wouldn't call Gotomeeting dog food. It is caviar. It is steak. It is filet mignon. So, Chrome 15. How did we get... Gina, what's going on? It's like they update this thing every 5 minutes.
They do. I was thinking about, I use a dev version. I don't know if it's the full dev version. It's kind of the middle one. So I get these things sooner than the stable version release. So I don't really talk about them because not everybody has them. But then it comes out in the stable release and you don't realize because you've had it forever.
Usually it just happens without you doing anything. I've just opened my About Chrome box, you can see here. And I'm at 15.874.102, but it does say a new version is available. So you can force the update when you do About Chrome. I'm going to do that right now. What's new in 15? Have you noticed?
I think the main thing is that the new tab page is new. You can switch between apps and most visited sites. And in the app section, it's actually kind of iOS-like. You can click on an app. Yeah, I don't know why I shouldn't say that. You can click and hold on an app, and you can drag it to the bottom right and remove it from Chrome. You can rearrange your apps.
So
apparently, the web store has gotten some
closed
updates.
it. So let me do this here. So what do? I click and hold?
Click and hold, yeah.
It's not going to jiggle, is it?
No, it's not going to jiggle, but... that didn't work for you?
Well, I'm not maybe at the latest Chrome 15. And then,
I downloaded right before the show, and there's already a new version.
Yeah, that's what's going on with me, too. There's a new version out here. So here's the web store. So what's different? Huh?
It's a store.
It's a store.
We moved the shelves. I mean, I think we can go overboard with the it's new stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's infinite scrolling, so you don't have to page, and it's got the organization emphasizes these kind of banners, these app banners to kind of advertise them a little better. So it's just a little bit of a redesign.
It matches the App Store on the phone now more, right? Because we have these.
Market.
Yeah,
right.
I mean Android. Yeah. Because we have these on the phone, on the Android phone, the marketplace on the phone.
Yeah, it does. It does look more similar to the Android market. Yeah. It's true.
I like this.
If only Android phones would update the way Chrome updates.
If only. That's a good segue.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That's what it should be.
Wouldn't that be nice? Holy cow! Dream on.
My Nexus 1 is now obsolete, and it's not even 2 years old yet, so it's still in contract.
Is that true? Nexus.
They're not going to do ice cream sandwich on Nexus 1.
That stinks.
That stinks really badly. I mean, of course, what's wrong here is the 2-year contract. But when they sell you a 2-year contract for a phone, it should be, and the promise it's updatable and updated, it should be updated that whole damned time. 18 months is not enough.
So it's we actually have to throw a quinceaños party for Chrome. Nobody got that. Okay.
Quinceañera?
Quinceañero. Thank you.
15.
The party that they throw for 15-year-olds. It's 15 now. All right. I shouldn't have gone there. Let me see now. I've got the update. Let me hold it, and I can. It does get bigger.
You can drag and drop and rearrange.
Oh yeah, look. Oh look. Just like the iPhone.
And then if you drag and drop it to the bottom right, you can remove it. That's how you want to install. It's a lot like iOS.
Well, see, I don't. But I don't.
Leo, how often do you use Chrome apps? Like, how often do you?
Rarely. You see, I have a bunch installed, but the whole point of installing them was to show them off on the show. I hardly ever use them.
I get into some habits. When I want movie listings, my Flickster is there, and I go there to use that. Yeah. Right, and that's the only one I'm really in the habit of using. If I got in the habit of using others, I would use them. I have Hulu there. I go to the web for using Hulu. I don't go there. I don't know why. There needs to be some better linkage. Well,
yeah,
here's the
I
thing
think
that
that's
happens.
programmed.
If
Go
I
to
just
the
put it in my times in the address bar,
Yeah.
it will, and because I have it installed, it will give me the app store NY Times rather than nytimes.com.
Oh.
Or search NY Times, either of those. It will say,
so you can look.
clearly
You can,
want that.
this is cool. So you just drag it up there and you get a little icon.
No.
No?
If I start typing in NY Times and I don't type in
I see.
.com,
It then says
gives
you
me
want the app.
/Chrome. Yep.
Got it. Huh. Not doing that for me for some reason. Oh, /Chrome. Yeah, it did. So that's the app. If you go to /Chrome, it's the app.
Right.
Got it.
I actually don't want. I want the New York Times.
Well, see, my issue is I don't see the really. I mean, an app is just a fancy web page, right?
Right. That's so you go to the address bar for a web page.
I'm unclear on
yeah.
the distinction, to be honest.
I'm not going to steal my numbers for later, but later on, we can also talk
Stay
about
tuned.
use of news apps too. But I think that I've seen a lot of research that just says people go to the web
And as web pages become more HTML5,
exactly.
in fact, Amazon's just announced they're going to use HTML5 for Kindle format books.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. So this is good news. I mean, this is really we are really moving to a standard.
That means that we could do things like put videos in books.
If the hardware supports it, I mean, it's a little challenging.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true. But that's pretty cool. Megan Garber at the Neiman Lab, who's brilliant and who also, I'm not going to get into a certain bête noire I have going on right now attacking me for my book, but out of his
now I'm searching.
attacks, don't even go there. It's just a pain in the butt. But she wrote a great post about how books aren't a very good way. There's Megan's post.
Oh, the Jarvis Morozov spat.
Yeah,
That sounds like something out of the Cold War.
No,
The Jarvis Morozov spit.
Yeah, there's nukes aimed at my house.
How can you find? It's just it's philosophy.
He wants to have a world war against. He said he wants a world war against me. That's another matter. I dare. It's me and Shirky and all these guys. We dare to be optimists. Anyway, Megan finds chicken salad in this chicken poop and writes a really great post about how books aren't viral and can a book be viral.
Ooh, interesting.
And she gives me more credit than I deserve for having talked about the ideas of the book before the book. And I said that I haven't done nearly enough of that. We have to rethink what it is. So I wrote a long post coming back on the kind of the business that I want to see started that would enable people to use Kickstarter-like functions to have events, to support themselves while they do that. And the book might be a byproduct. The process is the product. And the book is, maybe there's reasons to do it, but it's not really there. But finally, to the point, takes me a while, I know. If you did get there, that at some point you have a book, and if print really does start to truly go away, then what's a book look like, right? The book should include videos from these events. It should include graphics and slideshows and whatever the hell you want. So if the Kindle Fire finally presents books as HTML5, that to me is a key moment for changing our notion of the book.
I agree.
It's interesting. I'm reading the Steve Jobs book on my iPad in the Kindle app, and there's a bunch of parts where they're talking about the different iPod campaigns and different commercials, and I found myself flipping to YouTube and looking up the commercials, watching the videos while I was, and then what you just said earlier about the source interviews, I would love to have been able to tap play and listen to Steve say the words, the quoted, and I was thinking like, I wish that he had embedded these YouTube videos, the 1984 commercial and the different iPod, the U2 iPod that they did and the U2 commercial. I would love to have seen that. So yeah, I mean that would be, and you can do a lot of that manually, reading on an iPad or a Kindle. But
it starts to rethink exactly.
I got to point out though that you need a Fire. You couldn't do that on an e-ink Kindle. There's not enough horsepower.
I agree, or I agree, but
but
they're like a Nexus 1, they'll be obsoleted.
Yep.
But where are we headed here? Get your drinking glasses ready, folks. I'm about to say Gutenberg.
Habermas.
No, I'm staying away from him this week. As I think I've said on the show before, Elizabeth Eisenstein, Gutenberg scholar, says the book did not begin to take on its full form until 50 years after its invention.
I've been saying that for years.
And I wrote a piece just looking about this for Google's Think Quarterly. I ended up writing a piece for them about speed. And, it occurred to me that we all think that the change we're undergoing is so fast. What if it's slow? What if we're actually just barely at the beginning?
That's heresy. Oh, you mean
I know.
You don't mean it's slow. You mean it's going to get faster.
Well, yeah, we've barely seen it. So if you start to see then the book I think it's my specialty to read too much into things, but if you start to see HTML5 backed by Amazon for books, then you start to see the beginning of changing the form. I think that's wildly important.
Well, I do think that was part of the intent of the Fire. It's certainly the intent of the iPad is to and remember, one of the things Steve Jobs said that one of the last goals he had was to redefine textbooks, and I have to think it had to do very much with that, right?
Right. Well, my daughter has an eye convergence thing, and so she's in training for it, and it's fine. But we've been getting electronic books for her and audio books for her and all these things, and they aren't. Textbooks don't work in PDF. They don't work online because you've got to go all around the page and you've got to move stuff around, and there's no, they need to be utterly, completely, absolutely rethought.
Well, there are two. It's interesting. There are two big companies doing electronic textbooks. And one is trying to make it as true to the textbook as possible, down to the pagination. The theory being, well, in the class, the professor's going to say, go to page 269. It needs to be on your tablet, 269. And the other one, I can't remember, there's one, KNO is one of them, and I can't remember what the other one is saying, no, let's reinvent textbooks. Let's put multimedia, let's put audio, let's make it all new and different and exciting. Right. Anyway, so the story is not that they're going to have a format, Kindle Fire 8, which allows publishers to create books in genres that require rich formatting, such as children's picture books, comic books, graphic novels, using HTML5 markup, and they say multimedia. That's interesting.
And
CS3.
this is a little controversial, right? Because EPUB is actually based on HTML, and this is a non-standard. Hey, this is an Amazon.
By the way, Gina, what is this? See that?
Yeah, I have seen that.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. That's back.
Is this a Mac or a Chrome? I don't know. I've never seen this before.
I have seen that, and I'm not sure what it is. What are you doing?
I'm sliding back and forth with my fingers. I think this is a new Chrome back button. Is this Apple?
Is that the new back button? Oh.
This is the new swiping back button.
I'm not getting it.
I said, what is this? And the chat room said, Leo, that's an arrow pointing to your left. Oh, thank you. It is, if you're listening, it's hard to describe.
It's a lion thing that Chrome is now taking advantage of.
Well, let me see. I'm going to go to something not Chrome. No, it's not doing it in the chat room program. It only does it when I'm in Chrome. But it is a gesture. I have to, I have to use two fingers on my track.
I'm not getting it.
That's confusing as hell. Don't go. See, this is where
two-finger swipe.
Software attacks. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, two-finger swipe. So it just brings you back in the current tab. Google and their back swipes.
They don't want the back button, right? They don't want it. They want to.
Well, Android has been pretty loyal to the back button.
It's like a weird game. It doesn't always happen, though. It's so strange. Maybe, because I've gone back. Or is it? No, there it is. You got to get it just the right. Oh, it's so strange. And I don't know what it's doing. So it's an opaque gesture that's doing something that I don't know about.
I'm Googling.
So, answering Mr. McGrumpy.
Oh, no, don't.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Yeah. Don't give him the credit.
But, okay, to get back to this viral thing, I think, though, the fact that there's going back and forth on Twitter, and then you create a Google Doc that takes his text and responds to it. This is wonderful. This is, I know for you, this is probably a lot of spilkus and a lot of angst, but but for the rest of us, what it is it's a dialogue, and it brings the book to life. And
I agree, as long as it were civil and not personal. Vindictive vendettas.
I wish it weren't.
The form, I agree. That's what I want. That's what I crave, is a discussion. I crave a discussion about ideas, not about people. But yeah, that's what Megan's point is that's what books should be, and they're bad at. She said what books do is contain ideas. They're meant economically to contain an idea, and that's true. And I confess my hypocrisy for doing it in a book about publicness, especially. She said books are bad for sharing, and I said, well, yeah, that's the best criticism I've heard of my book, is I wrote a book about sharing in a form bad for sharing.
She says the system has also been generally designed to advance books within the marketplace, to sell them, rather than the marketplace of ideas. Now, your book is all about ideas. It aims at publicity rather than publicness, at selling objects rather than propelling the arguments they contain. Most idea-driven books like yours tread a well-worn path. Book pitched, book bought, book written, book published, book shelved, book reviewed, book ranked, book removed from the shelves so as to make room for more copies of Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother, which I love. So, but you've done something different, Jeff. Of course, naturally you would. And I think we should celebrate the fact that Mr. McGrumpy attacked you because it gave us this whole dialogue around it, which would normally not have happened, right?
I could imagine others attacking me. That's fine. But then what she did was inspire me to talk about something I've been contemplating for a while, which I write about on my blog, second or third post down, which is that I wish there were a company that allowed. Let's say that I'm not Seth Godin. I can't say snap my fingers and say 1,000 people come see me and pay to see me in Atlanta. But what if I got together with some really good authors, maybe some fellow utopians like Clay Shirky, if I were honored. I haven't discussed this with him. And we said, hey, folks, want to hear what we're talking about next and help us do it? And want to help us, support that. We're not going to lose money on taking an auditorium to do that or a space to do that. Well, you could go to a Kickstarter and you could say, you want to hear us? And if enough people say yes, fine. If enough people don't, then you now risk. And then you come together in an event that could be led by, the problem now is the authors are going to do more and more performance and speaking to make their living. They should do more of it before they write, I think, to have a big impact on what they do. But they're in no control of events. They wait for speakers agencies who don't do junk. They wait for conferences that rip you off and rip off the people who come. So what if there were a means by which authors and thinkers and talkers could not unlike you starting a network, could create their own events? And you can record those events. You can stream those events. You can use those events to pay for things. You can use those events to advance ideas. You can use those events for whatever you want.
So you say the book is actually, in your post, a byproduct. It's not actually, and I think that really gets to the fundamental thing I wanted to ask you is maybe the book is just a dead form.
It doesn't have to be. There are reasons to have a book, and maybe it's still because I'm still back in the Gutenberg parentheses.
A dead form for ideas as opposed to, say, a novel. I mean, obviously, the book as a novel makes sense. The book as biography makes sense. The book as a forum for ideas is, you're experiencing it, constrained.
Well, as Gina just said, the book as a biography would be so much richer if we could see and hear Steve Jobs in it, and see and hear those who talk about him in it. Yeah. And see people link to it and add to it in neat ways after it's out to say, I remember this story and I remember that story, or to fact check it or whatever.
But this is what we're doing right here. You hit the nail on the head. It's silly to say I'm an author, so I am enclosed in 600 pages of dead tree. You are a persona, and well, I don't mean in an egotistical
even
sense.
Not me. But we want to talk about ideas. More than one person.
Somebody who is an idea person, and see, this is the problem, by the way. And I think this is what holds it back, not with everybody, but some is, and it's the same problem people have with blogging. It's like, oh my God, it's all about me. It's just talking about me. And so there's some feeling that if you do this, you become now a personality. You are no longer, William Shakespeare or George Plimpton. But I don't think that that's really in the future. I don't think that's sensible. It doesn't have to be that way. The whole reason that we do this as we do it with a live chat room and live is because we want to create dialogue and conversation, not a monologue.
Well, I mean, Gina to me is a great example of that too. If you look at ideas and service and things like that, right? The book, and well, you, Leo, too. Your books. They set down. They make permanent some bit of advice. But what's the essence of you?
Well, that's why I stopped writing books. It seems
archaic. You on the show,
right?
Yeah.
And people say, "Why don't you blog more?" I finally came to. I felt bad, and then I finally realized, oh, I'm not a writer. I'm a talker.
Yeah.
I got nothing to write. I'm a talker.
Gina, what do you think?
There's disadvantages to this format, by the way, because it's completely impermanent.
Yes.
Well, right.
It's not searchable. It's not indexable. It's not referable back in time. It kind of goes out there and evanesces.
I think we could fix parts of that. But Gina, what's your best form for what you do best and love to do?
it's interesting. I thought about this a lot. The Lifehacker book is a product that came from 5 years, or actually more than 5 years now, because Adam continued with it, of blogging, right? So I can't, if someone asks me what's Lifehacker about, I'm not going to say you need to read 5 years of 20 posts a day, right? I'm like, here's this book, right? This book came from conversations and posts that we conversations that we had hours and hours and hours and thousands of people over years, and it kind of encapsulates the main ideas. It's edited, it's pretty, it's good. So I think that there's a lot of value in that. But like you said, it is dead. And I struggle with this with the Wave book too. It's like Google's creating this platform for conversations and collaborative, living documents. And I was writing a dead document about this platform, but I was kind of doing it in public and wanted to do it in that platform. I tend to do much better on the web. I'm much better writer and kind of tweeter, Google Plus, or whatever you want to say. I'm much better at conversations online with permalinks. So conversations with permalinks are really are important to me. Like, I love doing this show, but I hate that it's not permalinkable, or we don't have a full transcript, or it's not easy to, it's not as easy to skip to a certain part of the conversation. So I love the permalink. I like writing on the web, but I think that the book as a product, as a nicely packaged, edited, fully thought out, fully peer-reviewed and collaborated piece of work is really important too. Because 10 years from now, I'm going to say, Jeff talked about this idea in his book, Public Parts, and here it is, and it's on this page, and it is that permanence and that archiving. Yes. And this book is going to inform ideas that I definitely, it's definitely going to inform
and
ideas
that
that
makes
I
me
have
sad,
10 years from now.
Because I don't do that. I should do that. I'd love to do that. I just don't. That's not my medium. And but what this medium is good for is emotion.
Yes.
And I just that's what I kind of like. I mean, I think it's just more communicative if it is more evanescent, and the dialogue ends when an hour later it's fish wrap.
Yeah, but Buzz Machine means so much more to me now that I've gotten to know Jeff and get to talk to him in person every.
They go hand in hand, don't they?
Absolutely, they do. Absolutely.
And that's what you're saying, Jeff, I guess, with his idea of author.
It's part of it. Yeah, yes. Exactly. I think that the other thing you could do if you have a platform like this, if you have a platform for people to create their own events, whether that's the author or speaker or idea person do it, or whether that's the group. Don't we all hate conferences? Don't we just want to get together? What if you had a structure where you said, a little bit different from Meetup, but you had a structure like this that said, listen, I wonder if there's a critical mass of people to get together to talk about new strategies for net neutrality, making it up, right? And could we get enough people who would come in and support such an event and pay just enough to pay for the space, and we could do what we want to, and we can all meet each other, and yada, 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 yada. I think you could turn around this whole conference business and make it run by the people in the room rather than by the people behind it or the stage.
That's an
rather than
unconference.
Behind the stage.
You just reinvented the unconference.
But you need a business platform for this. What I want
a business platform.
I want the Kickstarter piece that says.
Isn't that always the problem?
I think it's easy. I think you can do Kickstarter, and you can say, are there enough people who'll pay, and do we have somebody who will come in? We know what their fee is to rent the venue and set up the mics and take the tickets and do all that stuff, and so we know exactly what the cost of such a gathering would be. Yeah. We make it or we don't make it.
It's such a shame that you have to put so much creativity into monetization. It just merely to make it possible, right? It doesn't really add anything to them.
But if you do, look at all the things that can happen.
I agree. You need to. It has to be done.
Kickstarter is an amazing thing. I mean, maybe the next wave, so to speak, and go away. But I think there's something really important there. The watch band company getting $1 million in pre-orders means that he built this product and company on his customers' capital. Right. He didn't have to go beg money from anybody. His customers gave him the capital. It's just syncopated the timing.
I love it. Right.
And it's a pop-up manufacturing company with no infrastructure. He can close it 6 months later, and the world's no worse for it. That's new. And so a platform has such incredible power. The risk, I think, in this new world, if you're Google or you're Facebook, is the wealth is now going to be ill-distributed to go to the platforms.
I'm excited. I
too.
And it makes me want to write more, though, Gina, because you need to have it be indexable and searchable and permanent.
Listen, me too, but I tell you, I haven't been blogging very much either. It's just too easy to throw up a post on Twitter or to do the show with you two. I mean, there are so many times when I'm like, I should really write a post about that discussion we had on the show, but we've had it, and I just don't take the time to do it.
I'm the same way.
So
I've abused my blog. Yeah.
So so here's the question: should we just posit that if somebody's really going to succeed in this space, that they have to be able to do these multimedia capabilities. They need to use the right medium for the right expression, but need to use them all because no one medium suffices.
Absolutely.
That's why we teach our journalism students to do them all.
There you go.
And some complain about having to have 8 arms, and they're right to complain because it's hard. But if they don't have the full power to do it all, then we leave them ill-served.
The true stars will do it all.
Yes.
The really successful
Appropriately.
ones. And
right?
Yes.
They won't make a video for the sake of making the video. They won't make a podcast because they have to make a podcast. They'll say,
they'll use
the
the right
best way
medium.
to express this is blank. Right.
It's
Yes.
like when in the old days of theater, you had to be able to sing, dance, and act.
I dare you to start dancing right now, Leo. I think a little,
no
given your uniform, a round of Officer Krupke would be good.
Gee, Officer Krupke, Krupyo. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back with more. It's so much fun.
Dramatic chipmunk.
All right. That's
I
kind
had
of,
to do that.
Thank you, Eileen.
Eileen's flying out to be Fred Norris, and she looks like it too.
But, it's funny. This conversation is great because it's something that's been going around and around and around for me, is that we created a platform for just one form. And I keep thinking we need text, we need a website that has text. We need to find a way to make all those forms live. And
Well, Leo, one thing you could do, not to delay our sponsor messages, they're going to bring us back to money, but the question is, can video be formed differently so that it has permalinks within it, right? Just as Dave Weiner has paragraph links in his blog.
We've talked a lot about that. In fact, Alex Lindsay has, you know what's sad? QuickTime had that capability and Apple took it out.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Apple decided, nobody's using it. So it had hyperlinking. And actually, you see that on YouTube frequently.
Yeah, YouTube has it, right?
You can do it. I don't think it's being done well, but you could do it.
See, I think you'd crowdsource this out, but ask the chat room. Hey, chat room, would you go to the effort of annotating?
That's what I'd hoped. I hoped we could crowdsource it. Yeah. That's why we have a wiki, and the show notes are on the wikis. And I had really hoped that we could create a cadre of people who would do that. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe that's the way to do it. Is
you lazy chat room, what have you done for us lately?
Get to work.
Jeez.
Get to work. All right, we're going to take a break. This is, as always, brilliant. When you get great people together like Gina and Jeff, you just get great conversations. So thank you, guys. We're going to take a break, come back in a second, talk more about, Google. But first, let's talk about Ford. We're having barbecues. I think November 13th is our first one. There's going to be one in December. Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to sit. We got a permit from the Petaluma Police, and I'm going to wear this outfit, and I'm going to stand out here and say, "You can't go here. We got a barbecue. Bring in the Ford Escapes, the Edges, the Ford Focus. Bring that over there. Put that over there." We're going to have all the 2012 Fords, so you can see the Ford Sync and the My Ford Touch, and these new 2012 Ford Focuses. You can put a USB 3G key in there, and it turns the whole thing. It's a cute Wi-Fi access spot with wheels. So you're driving along, and people in the car have Wi-Fi. I mean, it's just doing so many amazing things. And it's not just Sync and My Ford Touch. I mean, the great engines, they have all electric now, hybrids. Even the gasoline engines are more fuel efficient. They're just incredible torque, fuel economy on their diesel. And just things like this, like the safety belts with airbags built in to protect the kids. I could go on and on. The adaptive cruise control, active park assist. My Key, if you've got kids, Jeff and I all know this one. My Key gives them a special key that places limits on speed, the maximum volume of the audio system, and the low fuel light comes on sooner. Because as we know, kids will drive to 0. So instead of coming on at 50 miles, it goes on when you got 75 miles left, just to remind them. It's things like this. I just love it. If you want to find out more, go to your Ford dealer. Take a look at the 2012 Ford Focus. That's my next car. I'm waiting for the all-electric Ford Focus. But you can also go to Ford.com/technology. Unbelievable. This is a 21st century company that's rethinking autos in the same way that we're kind of rethinking media here. So yeah, I think a multimedia. I mean, that's where it's interesting. I think Jeff Bezos is thinking along these lines. Otherwise, why make this jump from e-ink to a tablet?
Well, and what's Google Plus doing is trying to intuit the content, right? It just occurred to me that the way you could harness the chat room. I love you, chat room. is that if they just put hashtags in the discussion while we're talking and associate that with the time codes.
Jeff, we're way ahead of you, although we're not doing it yet. If you go to twit.tv, you'll notice there's a scroll bar underneath the video, and that I've called for several years called The River. I wrote a blog post on this one. Thank God I can refer back to it. And the idea was exactly that it's a curated stream of textual content related to what you're watching, created by the chat room, the hosts, and others. Curated by our chat mods and other people. You have tags in it so that you can sort it or filter it as needed. There's hot links and so forth. So the whole idea of this was, it's not happening yet because, well, there's always technical issues. In fact, there's nothing going across the ticker right now. But that's what this black bar is.
Right. I mean, at a very simple level, if you just point to, if somebody, one more thing for Eileen to do, you point to one of the stories in the rundown that we're talking about right now, bingo, that says that's what this part of the show is about.
Exactly.
Until I go off on a tangent about
exactly. No, exactly. And then what we need to do is have people doing this instead of the wiki, and of course it would be captured and then and then indexed, but could annotate it so they could say, as Jeff's talking, here's an interesting article related, and so forth and so on.
Or we have a standing Glee button.
Yeah.
Frank.
You can have a filter, no Glee.
I got at least a few photos of people's burritos saying, hey, I listened to Twig and look what happened.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Chipotle now. Yeah. So takedown notices. This is from Search Engine Land. Who do you think has issued this year the most takedown notices from YouTube? Would it be Viacom? Would it be NBC? Would it be CBS? No, it'd be the U.S. government.
Scary.
5,009. This isn't your number, is it, Jeff?
Nope.
5,950 content removal requests. Now, this isn't just YouTube. This is from what? From removal?
A quarter, I think. Up 70% from the last reporting period.
More. Number 2 is India. This is a transparency report that Google does.
I wish we had more transparency on what's being made opaque. I mean, they say that they got requests from local law enforcement agency to remove YouTube videos of police brutality, which they didn't do. Requests to remove from local law enforcement to remove videos allegedly defaming law enforcement officials. They didn't do it. So we know that they didn't do.
Oh, that's
but what about?
So these removals are mostly like take accounts down, things like that. They're not YouTube videos necessarily.
Defamation, even email. I can't figure this out. If you look at the full chart, there are things they took down from email. Now, how the hell do you do that?
We removed ads that violated AdWords. YouTube was inaccessible during China, so we didn't have to do anything there. This is the first time they've received one or more content removal requests from the Cook Islands. A single court order from France removed 180 items from Google Groups. German data user requests increased 38%. India, state and local law enforcement to remove YouTube videos that displayed protests against social leaders or used offensive language in reference to religious leaders. We declined the majority of these requests. I love the transparency here.
Isn't it wonderful? If you click on United States as you get to it, you'll see the chart of the kinds of things that are done. But again, without much transparency from that point on.
Well, and probably they can't, right? I know
they can't, but even if they could describe it more, you want to know. Well, here's the scary thing today. Justice Department today, Mika Sifri tweeted on this, put out a new proposed regulation that says that the government can lie to you in FOIA requests and deny that in a document that exists, even if it exists.
That's for our security, Jeff, and you should. In fact, the very fact that you mentioned that now has to be expunged from the record.
And so, as Mika says, and Mika was a big supporter of Obama, take away his rewards for transparency.
YouTube defamation, privacy and security, government criticism. The U.S. has removed or requested that a video that criticizes the federal government be removed. It was a police executive, etc., not a court. They don't say whether it was removed or not. But there was. I
felt when I ran local sites, police were the worst at coming and issuing subpoenas because they know how to do it. And it was always somebody in the force who's criticizing the chief, and the chief goes after the online service. It just happened like crazy.
Google Images, web search, Google Groups, Privacy, impersonation, government criticism. I sure would like to know what that video is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How dare they pull down a video that criticizes the government?
Isn't that the essence of free speech?
I'm shocked, to be honest.
Well, some great journalists should be going and getting more stories on this.
What is that video? What could that video be? Isn't it part of our, absolutely part of our Constitution that we should be allowed to criticize the government?
Yep.
I mean, I'm not saying threaten the government, but they've got violence, hate speech, national security. They have categories for that. This is government criticism.
And there's one item listed there.
I don't like the government.
Yeah, I hope somebody digs into that. I'd like to know what that is. That shouldn't be showing up in the United States.
Interesting. And then user data requests. So let's go look at that. The government request for disclosure of user data from Google accounts or services. 93% of which were fully or partially complied with. 5,950. Well, it's obvious that Google's publishing this with a little bit of agenda. We hope this tool will shine some light on the appropriate scope and authority of government requests to obtain user data. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much outright said in the blog post that their goal is to be transparent about this so that we can start revisiting the policy that was enacted about this 25 years ago before most people knew what email was.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And let's hope that more companies do this.
Yep.
Google is planning to closely link an upcoming music download store with its Google Plus social network. We've heard this before and again and again. In fact, I thought by now we'd have heard of this.
Well, this is the extra that they were talking about.
This is the
one
twist.
more thing.
The twist thing.
What is the twist? Oh, yeah, the twist, right? Yeah, that's what they called it. But they haven't done it yet.
The twist appears to be that you can buy a song and then you can share it for one free listen with your friends.
One.
Well, but it's like radio play, right? It's not bad. It's so then your friends can say, I want to listen to this more. Well, then you can buy it. It's individual radio play.
Now, if I share a song, can each friend hear it once? So like I share it with 10,000 friends and each of them gets it once?
I think so.
Oh, that's all right.
That's a good question. That's got to work like that. One friend would be crazy.
Oh, it'd be crazy.
One play, one friend, that's it. You can only...
It's all just reports anyway. It's not fully confirmed. So,
yeah.
But that would be a neat model. I don't know if it's, revolutionary or anything, but it's kind of cool.
It is kind of neat. And it ties into the Google Plus emphasis, on things,
Yes.
right? Being able to share. Yep.
Google Plus is going to integrate with Blogger. Maybe I will start writing more.
Well, the first thing they're doing is just integrating the profiles.
Oh.
So those horrible blogger profiles that no one ever fills in can now be your Google Plus page, which only makes sense. But you're absolutely right, Leo. The thing
I want a blog from Google Plus.
And they asked me when I was out there, why do you put up things on different platforms? And I said, I can't write on Google Plus because I can't do links. I can't do what's responsible.
Right.
And they know that.
They'll do that. This is obvious.
Modules. They've got Blogger. They've got every tool they need is right there to publish rich posts on Google Plus.
Mike Elgin does that. He posts, he does a newsletter, which is a great newsletter, free newsletter. And the way he does it is he writes it on Google Plus. He posts them and then it aggregates them into a newsletter. Well, we need more little of those pieces so that I can create a blog which you can subscribe to or you can go read. And maybe tie that to YouTube. I mean, Google's the only one that can do all of this, I think.
You should have media throughout.
Everywhere.
And be able to use spreadsheets and slideshows and videos and links throughout. And it should be the richest content publishing platform, the easiest and richest you can imagine. They went to the easy by making it thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk to before we go to our tip?
Are we there already?
Number? Well, I'm doing a new thing. I'm trying to make the shows a little bit shorter.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
You got to tell me this, Leo, so I shut up.
No. It should not in any way impact how you perform. I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on the time and try to keep things moving along. I've got this little button. You thought I was joking. I have this little...
I did think you were joking. There's really an orange button?
Yeah. There it is. Actually, it's green. So I push...
Nice.
My staff, they love me. They say, okay, Leo, just tap this, and it will start a timer. And I'm looking at a timer. We're 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 25 seconds into the show. It is 2:15. So I think if I start rapping now, we'll get out of here in time for TNT, and we'll have an hour and 15-minute show, which is kind of my goal. You know, it was always our goal to make the show. In the earliest days, in 2005 when we did this, people kept saying, oh, don't make it longer than 70 minutes because we want to burn it to a CD. We don't get that request anymore. That we don't get anymore. But I think that's a nice time. Of course, on the other hand, there are plenty of people who say, no, I want it to be longer. Mostly what people want, I've discovered, is they want it to be exactly the length of their commute, no shorter.
Right, and that's
how people want it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to quickly mention our friends at Vast, and then I will get our tip, tool, and number of the week. I was going to make a video, and I forgot to do this, of that ion drive, because I got a clamp in the car and everything, and show me running into a car, and you could hear the screams of alarm from my Android phone, but I forgot to do that. I'll do that next week. That was my tip, my tool last week. Vast Conference. Actually, this is a very good tool that we've started to use a lot. VASTconference.com. I'll log in, but don't show the screen yet.
I'm not going to show it. Tell me when.
Because I don't know. You know what happened? I did this
yes.
last time. It shows phone numbers, right?
Can I show it now?
You can show this now. So this is. This is the dashboard. You can manage your calls. I think I'm hiding the numbers. You can, in a conference call, record each participant individually. You can add their name. There's this great account administration center. If you are doing conference calls, you have they call it, technical term is a conference bridge, right? Where you're setting up these conference calls. Vast is absolutely the best conference bridge I've ever used. Not free, but very affordable. And in fact, you can use it for free. Right now for 2 conference calls, no commitment. Just use our promo code TWIG. You get a toll-free dial-in number or a regular dial-in number. You get the conference code and so forth. Now don't show it, hide it.
Okay.
Because I'm now going to click on this. This is the most recent call that I did. Yeah, that shows phone numbers. So let me zoom in a little bit so I hide the numbers. There we go. So hosts, attendees, where they called from, the time, the length of the call. It's just really, really, there's more on this page that you're not seeing. It's really great. And what's great is you have recordings of it all. It doesn't use VoIP. It uses the actual phone system, so you don't get any weird latency or sound. It's if you want to do professional calls where you're not embarrassed, this is the way to do it. Vastconference.com. Use the offer code TWIG when you sign up, and you'll get 2 free calls. Actually, it's more complicated than that, but basically it's 300 minutes of calling at vastconference.com. They support up to 300 callers at once, which is very slick. And all the calls are recorded as MP3 files, which you can listen to or download later. Pricing is very affordable. It really is the way to do it. If you're using a conference bridge, do the pro thing, vastconference.com. We thank them for their support of This Week in Google. Gina Trapani has a tip of the week. Gina?
My tip this week is a little bit sad for old school power users. Search. Google Search has dropped the use of the plus operator, which you'd use to say, do an and search, this word plus another word. Very strange, not really sure why. I mean, most likely the reason why is because Google Plus, which uses plus as another kind of operator, will probably be integrated into search somehow. But this has literally been the plus operator and the minus operator and a few other advanced operators have been in the Google search since the very beginning.
They always said you don't need them. They always said, oh, you don't need to use Booleans. We'll just do it for you.
We'll just do it for you. Well, right, exactly. But, there are certain, especially journalists and coders and kind of the real super web savvy say, no, I really do want this crazy sounding word in my search results. And that's when you add the plus sign. So if you're used to using the plus, if you do a search using a plus sign, you'll actually get a message from Google now that says, hey, if you want to do the search, use quotes. So that's my tip of the week. Embrace the quotation marks. If you want to do a search where you absolutely want all the words in your search query to appear in the results, you only want results with the exact words you've typed, use quotations, and that will do it for you.
Okay.
I'm really interested to see how the plus sign will be used in the future, because no doubt they're reserving it for something related to Google Plus, I would imagine.
Huh. Yeah, that makes sense. That's why.
Right, like show me all the posts that mention Leo,
right,
and I would use the plus sign with your name or something like that.
That's what it is. Can they come up with another character then, if that's what they're going to do?
Yeah, I guess when they made the decision to use the plus sign instead of the @ sign, which is, a Twitter thing and an email thing, they kind of...
But you could have a different sign for the Boolean.
Right. Oh, I see what you mean. Right. Right. But quotations are always,
Ampersand.
Exact phrase searches. Like I use it for like song lyrics or
I
quotations.
use that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I use that a lot too. But this is actually, you have to put quotes around each word. So it's a little bit of a pain if you use the plus operator. I'll admit I use the plus operator less and less in the past few years, but every once in a while I bust it out if I'm looking for something very specific, and I'm like, no, I didn't mean that, Google. I meant what I typed.
Oh, that would be good. Jay Calhoun says, why not uppercase AND?
Oh yeah.
I think some search engines did use that.
Yeah, some do. That's right.
Capital or capital A.
We need more characters.
Nobody. I think what they probably found is in their metrics, nobody used it. Right.
That's probably true. Oh yeah, I'm sure the metrics.
Yeah.
I learned this week. This is not my number because it's not a number. It's a character. Not an alphanumeric. I learned this week that what's it called? The mark d'irony. I can't do any French, but the mark of irony is a backwards question mark.
Oh yes.
And it was intended originally to be to note snark or irony.
Right. The irony mark.
I love that, right?
Yeah.
And someone
love
then told me on
that
Twitter that there was an effort to do a left-leaning italic to note irony. Couldn't we all use that in Twitter for the irony starved?
I think we need
really
this.
need this on Twitter.
Don't
You know,
we?
get this. It was first used in the 1580s and then furthered by French poet Alcante de Brame in the 19th century. So apparently there's been a confusion about irony for a long time.
People get in trouble for irony all the time. I know somebody who got fired for irony. He said something he shouldn't have said. He said, no, I was saying that ironic. I'm British. You Americans don't get it.
You needed the rhetorical question mark or percontation point. Invented in the 1580s, and it was used at the end of a question that did not require an answer, a rhetorical question. It's used, this is according to Wikipedia, it's used died out in the 17th century. But we want it back.
Yeah.
We want it back. And then there's also the interrobang, which is a exclamation mark and a question mark. The irony mark.
I'm a fan.
Point d'ironie.
Point d'ironie. Thank you,
Point
Brandon.
d'ironie. Wow, that's really great. But how can you make it happen? Is there
it's an ASCII
it's
number.
ASCII. It's in the ASCII.
Yeah, you can cut and paste that, but the problem is some of the places won't see it. Depends on whether the font supports it in the display.
It's in Unicode, 2E, 2E. 2E,
To be
2E.
or not to be?
Yeah, just remember that for the year.
To E or not to E?
Huh. The percontation point. I love it.
I love the
Speaking
show.
of
I know.
time wasting,
where would you learn that anywhere else? So, you have a number, Jeff?
I have a number of the week. The Pew Internet and American Life people who do just incredible work. I mean, I think we're going to look back in history and be so grateful for the work they do on our usage of things. They did work on news and tablets. And there's good news and bad news. Matthew Ingram did a good summary of this work on GigaOM. 77% of tablet users get some kind of news, or get 54% get news daily. 30% say they get more news than they did before because of the tablet. But the bad news, 14% pay, only 21% say they would pay. And here's the interesting thing to me. 40% of users get news not through applications, but through browser. Only 21% get news through brand-specific browser apps. I mean, iPod apps. Otherwise, they use the browser. So the whole notion that you're going to get this controlled world of news around the apps, which I keep on decrying, well, probably not going to work. It's probably the browser.
Interesting.
So those are my numbers.
I agree. By the way, there are other alternative exclamation or punctuation marks suggested.
Oh boy, we got to get Leo off this Wikipedia
by
page.
Hervé Bazin. He wanted also a doubt point, a certitude point, an acclamation point, an authority point, an indignation point, and a love point.
Oh, that's too good. That's got to be a joke.
Love point.
Only in the French would they have a love point. I would like to put the love point on this show right now. I heart this show.
Yes.
My tool of the week is not something probably that you want to use. I think there's some Android users who are a little jealous of Siri and wish they had some Siri-like capability. I still think the dictation in Android is pretty good. It is not as good as Siri, though. I have done head-to-head comparisons, and really Siri is pretty remarkable. But there is an app in very extreme alpha right now called Iris that you can download for free from the Android marketplace. Just talk to Iris about anything and listen.
She's mean.
She's kind of mean?
She's mean.
Well, like what? She yells at you?
It's just the opposite of she's very sarcastic.
Yeah.
So if you ask a question, she just has attitude. Iris has attitude.
Attitude. Well, some people like that, don't you think? Shall we have a little Iris irony? By the way, that was Eileen.
If you hate everything Macintosh, then I've got an app for you. I'm Sassy Bob, and you're watching XDA TV.
I was afraid that she was the voice.
She should be. I want her on my phone.
If you've
Sassy
heard about
Bob.
the new iPhone 4S, then you probably heard about Siri. A big marketing point for the 4S. Siri is supposed to be a mobile assistant that you can talk to.
Can I scroll ahead? Did you talk about this on All About Android?
We did. We talked about it. Jason downloaded this.
You're very funny.
What is XDA developers?
I don't live in England.
Then why do you have a British accent?
I don't have a favorite show.
You're a f***ing idiot.
You asked your F asterisk 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 asterisk.
I think there's a certain joy to that. Anyway, if you feel a little jealous that you don't have Siri on your Android phone, put Iris on your phone.
Iris is good. There's also Speak to It.
There's several of them. And there's Vlingo. I use Vlingo a lot, actually. Vlingo works pretty well. Haven't tried Speak to It. What do you like about Speak to It?
Well, Speak to It, you have an avatar, and then you could
change
the
avatar. Does it talk
avatar.
back to you, though?
It talks back to you and it learns. It's still in beta, and they have a Kickstarter. The company that put it together has a Kickstarter to for funding to help them.
That's cool. And it's you can have Jane or your personal assistant.
It's not bad. I mean, it added a calendar appointment for me. It tells me who Leah Laporte is.
Right.
That kind of
These
thing.
things, look, it's no question. This is going to be in all phones soon. But for right now, Siri really owns this market. And Siri should do a lot more, but at least we Android users have some choices. Did you break down yet, Gina? And,
No, but I'm close.
I think between the camera and Siri, it's probably a good idea. It's worth it. I hate to say it.
I need to get through.
Well, Elgin went after.
He did.
Did you see Elgin's post?
No.
Oh, he just went after it. He said it's a bad phone. He said don't get it.
Well, he's had horrible battery life issues. And that is true.
That's basically complaint about. He had 5 reasons not to get the 4S.
Well, we'll have to get Mike on TWiT and have him rail and rant and rave.
Yeah. Oh.
Siri means ass in Japanese, according to Mike. Just a thought. Hey, thank you for being here. Jeff Jarvis is at buzzmachine.com. His book, Public Parts, a must-read. In fact, we did a great triangulation with Jeff
thank you so much for doing that. The reaction was just
so wonderful. And if you haven't seen it, go to twit.tv and download last triangulation episode. You're just so much fun. I just want to talk to you all the time.
I love being around you.
More
Group hug.
and more group hug. Aww. It was a little bit, it got a little sappy, actually.
It did. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I know. I went overboard. I went too far. Leo got creeped out. But I had to tell Leo I loved him.
I have to listen to it. Now I'm definitely.
There was a little heart moment.
I figure if you have an hour with Leo, you got it. I had to use that as the opportunity to say how much I love Leo. And
No, it was so much fun.
He's got a restraining order against me now, but that's why he's wearing the cop uniform to remind me that I've got to stay in line or he's armed.
All I can say is I'm just glad these things don't live forever. They just.
Oh, is that bad, Leo?
No, I'm kidding. It was great. I love it. You know I love you, Jeff. And it was actually, I was glowing inside. Anyway,
all right,
read Jeff's book. It's worth it. Watch the triangulation. And, of course, Jeff joins us every week, whenever he can, for Twig, which is almost every week. Gina Trapani is at smarterware.org. That's her blog. And, of course, writes for many other blogs, as well as the original Life Hacker, which she created. And she's also the author of Think Up, which is an amazing app for Twitter analysis at thinkupapp.com.
Yeah, check it out.
Thank you so much, Gina.
Thank you. It's a great show today. A lot of fun, as always. My favorite hour of the week.
3908 says Shiri or Oshiri means butt. You can't even say Siri in Japanese. So there.
All right. Now we have clarification.
Thank you all for being here. We do this show every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC at twit.tv. Please watch, and if you can't watch live, don't worry. We make audio and video versions available shortly after the show every single week. TNT is coming up next, as always, Monday through Friday, our tech news show with Tom Merritt, Ayaz Akhtar, and Sarah Lane. Triangulate, do we have a guest for triangulation or no? We're working on it.
We're working on it.
We don't know. Wednesday, we may not. Wednesdays at 4, we do triangulation if we can find somebody really good. But if we can't, we're not going to waste time talking to somebody not really good.
Exactly.
If it's not Jarvis quality, I don't want it. I don't want it.
Well,
If the person doesn't love Leo as much as I do,
It's
why do
exactly
it?
right. We do a Leo test. It's like the litmus test, only it's... Anyway, thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.
And here's a little Christmas. This is for Gina and Jeff.
Yay! Glee Christmas!
I hate to say it, but the ratings are plummeting for Glee.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of stopped. It's like...
Plus, it's not on now.
It's not on because of the World Series.
I want more singing and less plot, because the plots really are horrible.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm sorry. I love Sue Sylvester. I love Sue Sylvester, but Jane Lynch is amazing, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, they're also acknowledging their seniors this year now.
Oh, are they
Yeah.
going to graduate? Are they going to get rid of some of these
Well,
kids?
that's what you wonder, yeah.
Yeah, like the major characters many of them are graduating.
It's time for a new gang.
Yeah.
Rejuvenate it or kill it. What do you think, Gina?
I don't know. The honeymoon's kind of been over for me with Glee a little bit too, so...
I wouldn't kill it. I would just get somebody in there and just say, make it about music.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah, I wouldn't kill it. I wouldn't go to college. I wouldn't do that.
Glee goes to college.
Yeah, no.
That's the 90210 syndrome.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I would get some really good new high school level stars in there and focus more on music and more on zoo zingers.
Yeah.
And
love Zoo.
and go with that.
Love Zoo Zingers.
Zoo zingers.
Zoo Zingers.
This is for you, Gina, I think.
Oh, nice.
The bricks are going in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
There's some wild bricks. These are so great. But here you are, Gina, right at eye level.
Right on.
Gina Trapani, twig leak.
I was wondering where that was going to wind up.
Isn't that
Right on.
great?
Good work, Gina.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony, for taking that picture.